When I was in seminary, I started volunteering at the Open Door ministry with one of my housemates. Open Door was an intentional living community where folks who had the finances to choose whether they would rent a home or buy a home or live in a house or live in an apartment chose to live in this shared space with those who didn't have the finances to make those choices, many of whom would probably be living or sleeping on the street without the Open Door community. They came together to do life together, to live communally. And the Open Door had a number of different ministries. They did a couple of meals a week that were open to those who were living on the streets. They had students from Emory University and the med school coming in and doing a foot clinic, and those doing a medical clinic so that they could receive medical care without insurance. We had a clothes closet, and we would give out clean socks and beanies and gloves and clean clothes. They would do a laundry ministry. There was a shower ministry. There were a number of different elements that happened. And so I went in on a Monday morning when they did their hot breakfast, and we had the meal first, shared together, and then I was assigned to the clothes closet, and people would line up and come through and ask for what they needed. And they had a policy where if you got a pair of socks, you turned in a pair of socks so that they could sort of continue it and clean it, and people weren't hoarding items. And so this guy came through and he wanted a beanie. So I reached into the box and I grabbed out a beanie, and it was a blue one. And he said, "I don't want a blue one. I want a gray one. Can I have the gray one?" And the thing that went through my head was, beggars can't be choosers. Fortunately, it only went through my head and not across my lips. And I then had this moment of, Debbie, what difference does it make to you? It's not your collection of beanies. These are to be given out. And if he wants a gray one instead of a blue one, great, give him the choice. All the choices he doesn't have, all the power he doesn't have like you do throughout the day, at the very least, you can give him a choice about which color beanie he wants. It's so simple, and yet that sort of common narrative, that phrase I'm sure many of us have heard before, beggars can't be choosers, was the bias at the forefront of my mind. Now, after we finished giving out clothes, we all sort of collected up, those of us who had been serving for the morning, and we had a circle. And I don't remember if we sang a hymn or two. I imagine we prayed. I think somebody probably shared a scripture and a devotional of some sort. And then we had an opportunity to share out our reflections. And in this very confessional moment, I shared what had gone through my head and my shame that it had been there, but also the awareness that I had just a moment later to be able to give that choice. And in that community, people were able to confirm that I had been prejudiced and then the wrong. And they were able to affirm the shift in my thinking and encourage me to do better, to continue sort of breaking some of those old thoughts, those old narratives, so that I might be in community differently. That time together, both serving at the Open Door and collectively processing what had happened, was church in one of its many forms. There was a space for service, a space for community, a space for accountability, a space for worship. It was all of those things. As we begin to think about how we might do ministry differently, how we might be different in our community, offering care and meeting needs in new ways, expanded ways, maybe with new communities, maybe with the same communities we've been reaching for a long time, but with a renewed awareness, I'm hoping that we might integrate some new models, that we might be inviting people to serve, not just from the church, but from the community, to share in that space together, to share meals and break bread with other people, to serve them, to help them, and to confront some of the stuff that's there, some of our biases, and to have a space in community for accountability, for encouragement, and for growth. Living as the church, even if we're not in the church. Think about it, friends. Where do you think God might be calling us to serve?